Good day, members of IPADA Business School. Today, we are going to review the Baldwin Bicycle Company case in which we are required to address a manufacturing assessment. Moreover, the scope of this proposition is to determine whether if the company shall engage into a manufacturing scheme to develop a house brand for one of its largest current customers. Accordingly, we are going to first of all analyze and understand the facts of the case. Subsequently, we are going to carry on an analysis that will allow us to address each of the issues proposed in the case, and afterwards we're coming up with a proposal in which we are going to identify the risks and how to mitigate each risk of such proposal for this case. Let's now get down to business as usual and identify the key facts that are stated within the case. But first of all, I want to let you know that there is some added value information that I have included in the presentation, but due to the fact that we will be running short on time, I am not going to discuss all of those, but I can surely address them afterwards via email, phone, or whichever lead you prefer. I'll be happy to do that. Regarding the facts, we know that Baldwin Bicycle Company has been in business for over 4 years. They offer 10 different products and they had over $10 million in revenue as of the last fiscal year. They have been approached by Value, which is a current customer, discount department store, which has decided to go into the house brand business model. There are many retailers that go into house brands, which is a cheaper alternative for already offered products. Such is the case as Costco with Careland, Sam's Club with Members Mark, Walmart with Great Value, among several others. What are the conditions for Value that Value proposes to Baldwin Bicycle Company? First of all, they want to have an access to a large inventory. They want to purchase the product once it has been sold, like the whole invoicing and collecting process, and they will be paying on 30 days. And they will access to acquire any product that has been on stock for over 4 months. This is very important because it is absolutely clear that this will have an impact on Baldwin Bicycles Company cash flow. Yet, it is also worth mentioning that they want their product to be different, like physically different from the one that Baldwin Bicycle Company is currently offering. And moreover, we know from the marketing vice president of Baldwin Bicycle Company that their product can be identified not as an average product, but more as a premium product. I will actually locate it somewhere in between. And I actually included a price value map in which you can locate Baldwin Bicycle Company within the regarding price and quality. Now, I will proceed to list the issues that are stated within the case, which we will address after we carry on an analysis of these facts. There are many ways in which K-facts could be analyzed. For instance, I can mention the SWOT analysis, a price value map, the 5 particle forces, a blue ocean, red ocean strategy, and several many others. But it depends on the scope of each case and its specific challenges for us to determine which is the base analysis method to carry on regarding the proposed issues. As for the Baldwin Bicycle Company case, I decided to crunch down the numbers of the financial statements that were provided within the case, meaning that I analyzed what would be the accounting impact on whether accepting or not accepting the proposition, taking into consideration the current financial statements and the cost related to accepting or not accepting the expected sales, the new cost of sales, and several other facts that we are going to go deep when addressing each of the issues, since each of the issues require a specific amount of deepness that I am going to provide you when addressing each of them. I also get to calculate the financial ratios that will have the largest impact on each of the alternatives. For instance, the return on assets, the return on equity, the return on sales, and the inventory turnover. Afterwards, we are going to see why I chose these specific financial ratios. Before going into the issues and addressing each of them, I carry on an analysis evaluation, which is more of a pros and cons list of whether accepting or not accepting the proposition, taking into consideration the results that I got from the number crunching process. So first of all, the pros will be that Baldwin Bicycle Company would have a different product line, will increase their product capacity, will have a larger amount of expected sales, and that the challenger price, the home brand of He Values, is higher than the average unitary price of Baldwin Bicycle Company products. Afterwards, we're going to see how did I reach these numbers. As for the cons, Baldwin Bicycle Company will be losing 3% of their sales due to cannibalization. The challenger costs are higher than producing the Baldwin Bicycle Company bicycles. We're going to see how much higher they are afterwards. We would have a cash flow decrease, taking into consideration the amount of time that Baldwin Bicycle Company will have to stock the products, and also taking into consideration the amount of time that the collecting and payment process will take that we mentioned previously within the facts. And lastly, I also identified a lack of sensibility from Ms. Laser, meaning that she may require further assistance to get further insights regarding their financials, their internal financials, and that maybe her position is not the best to carry on the negotiation by herself. We are now going to address the issues stated within the case. First issue requires us to explain what will be the expected added value or added profit from accepting He Values' proposal on developing the challenger product. First of all, we can expect an increase in our sales of 20% due to the fact that we are expecting to sell 25,000 units of the challenger for the next fiscal year. Nevertheless, it is worth taking into consideration that such product require 90% cost of sales, while in the meantime, manufacturing our own products only requires 74% on cost of sales. If we take that into consideration and the unitary price proposed by He Value, which is of $92.29, and an average unitary price for our products, giving the statements the financial statements that are in the case, within the annex we can see the exact figures on how much we are expected to gain from this proposal. Second issue states that we shall explain what is the expected impact of cannibalization on the existing sales. The case tells us that as for the next fiscal year, we are expected to sell 100,000 units. Nevertheless, that due to cannibalization, we will be losing 3% or 3,000 units. This annex specifically states what will be the impact on US dollars of losing those 3,000 sales or 3% on our current products. Issue number 3 requires us to explain what are the costs incurred on a one-time basis only, which clearly in the case, literally we are told that those will be of only $5,000. I decided to include those $5,000 on the next financial statement, meaning for the next fiscal year, on the other expenses on the income statement. So you should be able to see those $5,000 included in there. Nevertheless, it is worth mentioning that the asset-related expenses are not in this annex yet, since those are considered for the next issue, which is what are the additional expenses. We are provided with a list of percentages on how asset-related expenses will impact our inventories and or accounts receivable. Our annex detail each of those costs, meaning the pre-tax cost of funds, the cost of records, the insurances, and some other costs that we are required to analyze, the percentage that it represents, and how they impact directly either our inventories or both our inventories and our accounts receivable. We can see afterwards within this same annex that how we have our other expenses within our financial statement, how we have our other expenses without the one-time basis only additional expenses, and how will that all increase if we take into consideration these additional asset-related costs. And lastly, we calculate financial ratios required, which are the return on sales, the return on assets, the return on equity, and I also decided to calculate the inventory turnover. we see that the inventory turnover is very low, even within the current situation as of the next fiscal year, and even if we do not accept the Challengers project for the next fiscal year. It is worth mentioning that a low turnover on inventory turnover implies weak sales and possibly excess inventory, which we cannot tell what I will definitely call for very low sales or weak sales in this specific case. We can see that all the financial ratios are negative if we accept He-Value's project. This is due to the fact that we would be expecting our net income to be negative, meaning that we will be having losses for the next fiscal year if we do accept the project. On the other hand, if we do not accept the project for the next fiscal year, although we will have positive financial ratios, it will be very short and very tight regarding our current situation, which tells us absolutely that the company needs to boost its sales and develop new channels for the next fiscal year in order to increase those sales and remain competitive. Otherwise, it's going to be very tight on both cash flow, income, and profits. Almost last, we have issue number 6, which requires us to address the strategic risks and rewards of accepting this project. The main risks would be that He-Value could change the manufacturer at any given time, meaning that they could go for another manufacturer abroad where they have economies of scale, or another national manufacturer which will leave us with no sales. Even some other customers may drop out, and this would be like very negative for the company. The rewards on the other hand would be the increase on the 20% of sales, going through the bicycle boom decrease that we are currently going under through, and that Baldwin Bicycle Company could optimize its shift capacity from 75% to even close to 100%. Lastly, taking into consideration the previous issue number 7 required us to tell Mrs. Lester what to do. So here we have came with a proposal to address this specific issue, which is for Baldwin Bicycle Company not to accept He-Value's deal, yet to develop a way in which they can increase their sales and develop new channels. Otherwise, for the next fiscal year, they are going to find themselves very tight on revenue, for which we would recommend for Baldwin Bicycle Company to develop B2C business model, as well as to stick to B2B, which is your current business model. For instance, just for you to bear in mind and to have some pillow talk about a couple of alternatives that may be suitable to increase Baldwin Bicycles Company sales, it will be for the company to develop a website in which they sell directly to their customers on to make the most out of current tools such as it will be Amazon or eBay or other e-commerce alternatives. Secondly, they could consider to initiate a brick-and-mortar business in cities that are currently having a bicycle boom, such as it is the case in the United States of San Francisco, Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, among several others. And lastly, they should consider, as part of their B2B current business model, to approach some department store which may be interested in fulfilling and supplying their product, which may have similar consequences such as the He-Value's proposed model. So here, I just wanted to include a chart in which we could identify some risks, the impact and likelihood for them to happen, and the mitigation alternative of the proposal that we just mentioned. This is just for information purposes only. For instance, we can tell that brick and mortar may be too expensive for the company to have, which likelihood will be medium, considering the low, medium, and high level. The impact will be low, but the mitigation will be to focus more on other channels development, such as it will be the e-commerce. With no more to say, if you may have any further questions or comments, I'll be happy to address them. You can always contact me within the links that I attached to this presentation, and I will be looking forward for us to remain in touch.